Hello everyone. In this video, we'll see domain name systems, that is DNS. So in this video, you'll understand what is a DNS, then service provided by DNS, then how DNS works. In the next video, we'll see the DNS records and DNS messages formats. So now coming to the DNS, that is domain name systems. We human beings can be identified in many ways. For example, we can be identified by the names which appears on the birth certificates, and human beings can be identified by their driving license numbers and other card numbers. So each of these identifiers can be used to identify the peoples. Just as human beings can be identified in many ways, likewise internet host can be identified in computer networks. One identifier for a host to identify by its host name. The host names like the www.yahoo.com, then www.google.com and so on. And these host names consisting of the variable length alphanumeric characters, and they would be difficult to process by routers. For these reasons, for this reason, hosts are also identified by their IP addresses. An IP address consisting of 4 bytes and as a rigid hierarchical structure. An IP address look like 127.7.106.83, where each numbers are separated by the dot and one of the bytes expressed in decimal notations. The domain name systems converts the human readable domain names like www.google.com into the internet protocol, that is the IP address like 173.194.38.78. So the main task of the DNS is to convert these domain names into the IP address. So think of the DNS like your smartphone's contact list, which maintains the people names with their phone numbers. The domain name system, that is a DNS, is the phone book of the internet. So there are two ways to identify a host, by its host name and by its address. So people refer or prefer more the host names identifier because we human beings are capable of remembering the names rather than the numbers, while routers prefer the fixed length hierarchical structure of address, that is IP address. And the DNS that translates the host name into the IP address is the main task of the internet's domain name systems, that is DNS. The DNS is a distributed database implemented in hierarchy of DNS servers and an application layer protocol that allows host to query the distributed database. The DNS protocol runs over UDP and uses port number 53. Let's consider an example. So consider what happens when a browser running on some user's host requests the URL, that is www.someschool.edu slash index.html. In order for the user's host to be able to send an HTTP request message to the web server, that is www.someschool.edu, the user's host must first obtain the IP address of the www.someschool.edu. So this is done as follows. First, the same user machine runs the client side of the DNS application. Second, the browser extracts the host name, that is www.someschool.edu, from the URL and passes the host name to the client side of the DNS application. Then the DNS client sends a query containing the host name to the DNS server. Then the DNS client eventually receives a reply which includes the IP address for the host name. So once the browser receives the IP address from a DNS, it can initiate a TCP connection to the HTTP server process located at port number at the IP address. DNS provides a few other important services in addition to translating the host name to IP addresses. First one, host aliasing. A host with a complicated host names can have one or more alias names. For example, a host name such as relay1.westcoast.enterprises.com could have, say, there are two alias names such as enterprise.com and www.enterprise.com. In this case, the host name relay1.westcoast.enterprise.com is said to be the canonical host name. Second one, the mail server aliasing. For example, if Arun has an account with Hotmail, then Arun's email address might be simple as arun@hotmail.com. However, the hostname of the Hotmail server is more complicated and much less mnemonic than the simple hotmail.com. For example, the canonical hostname might be something like relay1.westcoast.hotmail.com. So DNS can be invoked by a mail application to obtain the canonical hostname for a supplied alias hostname as well as the IP address of the host. So this is what the mail server aliasing. So next one is the service of the DNS is load distribution. DNS is also used to perform load distribution among replicated servers such as replicated web servers. Busy sites like facebook.com, cnn.com are replicated over the multiple servers with each server running on the different end systems and each having a different IP addresses. In the centralized design, clients simply direct all queries to the single DNS server and the DNS server responds directly to the querying clients. Although the simplicity of this design is attractive, it is inappropriate for today's internet. With its vast number of hosts, the problems with a centralized design include a single point of failure. If the DNS server crashes, so does the entire internet crashes. Then traffic volume. A single DNS server would have to handle all DNS queries for all the HTTP requests and email messages generated from hundreds of millions of hosts. Next is the distant centralized database. A single DNS server cannot be close to all the querying clients. If we put the single DNS server in New York City, then all the queries from India must travel to the other side of the globe, perhaps over slow and congested links. So this can lead to significant delays. Next is the maintenance problem. The single DNS server would have to keep all the records for all the internet hosts. Not only would this centralized database be huge, but it would have to be updated frequently to account for every new host. In summary, a centralized database in a single DNS server does not exist. The DNS uses a large number of servers organized in a hierarchical fashion and distributed around the world. No single DNS server has all of the mappings for all the hosts in the internet. Instead, the mappings are distributed across the DNS servers. There are three classes of DNS servers: root DNS server, top level domain DNS servers, and authoritative DNS servers, which are organized in a hierarchy as shown in this figure. To understand how these three classes of servers interact, consider suppose a DNS client wants to determine the IP address for the host name called www.amazon.com. The following events will take place. The client first contacts one of the root DNS servers, which returns IP address of the top level domain servers for the top level domain.com. The client then contacts one of these top level domain servers, which returns the IP address of an authoritative server for Amazon.com. Finally, the client contacts one of the authoritative servers for Amazon.com, which returns the IP address. For the hostname called www.amazon.com, we will examine this DNS lookup process in more detail. But first, let us understand the three classes of DNS servers. First one, the root DNS servers. In the internet, there are 13 root DNS servers labeled from A to M. So, most of which are located in North America. Then top level domain servers. So these servers are responsible for top level domains such as .com, .org, .net, .edu and .gov and so on. So .com commercial, .org organizations, then .net network, .edu educational and .gov government top level domain servers. And all of the country top level domains such as .uk, .fr, .ca and .gp. So .uk indicates United Kingdoms, .fr indicates France, .ca indicates Canada, .jp indicates Japan. Then the authoritative DNS servers. Every organization with a publicly accessible host such as web servers and mail servers on the internet must provide publicly accessible DNS records that map the names of those hosts to IP addresses. An organization can have another important type of DNS server called the local DNS server. A local DNS server does not strictly belong to the hierarchy of servers, but it is central to the DNS architecture. Let us consider a simple example. Suppose the host cis.poly.edu requests the IP address of cs.umass.edu. Also, suppose that a local DNS server is called dns.poly.edu and that an authoritative DNS server for cs.umass.edu is called dns.umass.edu as shown in this figure. The host cis.poly.edu first sends a DNS query message to its local DNS server, that is dns.poly.edu. The query message contains the hostname to be translated, namely cs.umass.edu. The local DNS server forwards the query message to a root DNS server. The root DNS server takes note of edu suffix and returns to the local DNS server a list of IP addresses for top level domain servers responsible for edu. The local DNS server then resends the query message to the one of these top level domain servers. The top level domain servers takes note of the umass.edu suffix and responds with the IP address of the authoritative DNS server, namely dns.umass.edu. Finally, the local DNS server resends the query message directly to the dns.umass.edu, which responds with the IP address of cs.umass.edu. Next example, as shown in this figure, makes use of both recursive queries and iterative queries. The query sent from cis.poly.edu to dns.poly.edu is a recursive query, since the query asks dns.poly.edu to obtain the mapping on its behalf. But the subsequent three queries are iterative, since all of these replies are directly written to dns.poly.edu. So any DNS query can be iterative or recursive as shown in this figure. Thank you for watching this video.